The Surath Dominion had mapped half the galaxy. Their reach spanned thousands of worlds, hundreds of intelligent species, and more star systems than most civilizations even knew existed. Their empire ran on a perfect blend of artificial governance and biological hierarchy. Every discovery was logged, classified, and either absorbed or ignored. Nothing escaped their gaze for long. When an exploration vessel designated Virex 17 stumbled across a blue and green planet in a quiet corner of the Orion Arm, the discovery barely caused a ripple. The planet, labeled Sol 3, was sent to Central Intelligence for threat assessment. A low-level analyst fed the data into the Dominion's strategic AI net, expecting nothing unusual. Earth's profile came back as a curiosity, not a concern. A pre-warped civilization. Disunited. Culturally chaotic. Advanced in some ways, but lacking cohesion. Dominant species. Homo sapiens. Technology scattered. Weapons outdated. Space activity minimal and localized to their moon and orbital junkyards. Threat level low. The analyst skimmed the report, flagged it as non-urgent, and filed it. Protocol dictated a minimal watch, but even that was reduced due to more pressing discoveries elsewhere. Earth was one of 1,000 low-tier planets found that cycle, just another ball of life, not ready for the galactic stage. The Dominion didn't waste resources on ants. The Council of Evaluation briefly reviewed the findings during a quarterly review. One elder commented on Earth's history of internal conflict, but it was brushed off as primitive behavior. Another found amusement in the human custom of building machines that could destroy themselves. Predictably self-limiting, he said. No ambassadors were sent, no monitors deployed, no further probes launched. Earth's location was logged, its status sealed with a red mark. Observation not required unless status changes. The Dominion's vast attention moved on. Back on Earth, humanity continued exactly as it had been, fighting, inventing, arguing, dreaming. No one knew they'd been judged by a galactic empire. No one knew they'd been dismissed as irrelevant. But in the shadows of Earth's nations, quiet minds were already building something different. Secret projects, quantum labs, AI experiments too dangerous to announce. Military designs not meant for the battlefield, but for something else entirely. The kind of advancements that didn't make headlines, but changed everything once they worked. The Surath Dominion never noticed the change in Earth's data profile. They had already marked the planet as unimportant. They didn't see the launch of near-invisible probes leaving the solar system. They missed the disappearance of the first scout vessel that came too close without permission. They didn't see humanity preparing, because they weren't looking. And by the time they did, it would be too late. The first silence came from Galactic Station, a refueling hub on the Dominion's outer edge. That was a quiet place, home to a few thousand technicians and a small defense wing. One day, routine communications stopped. No distress signals, no signs of attack, just silence. At first, the Council assumed a relay malfunction. Glitches were common in French systems. A scout vessel, Tarsus 4, was dispatched to investigate. It entered the Gralith sector and never returned. No debris, no final report, not even a static burst. Just another silence. 2 more outposts vanished the same week. One was a supply depot orbiting a barren moon. The other, a forward relay station tasked with tracking deep space anomalies. Their locations were separated by light years, but the result was identical. Nothing came back. No calls, no warnings. Entire crews simply gone. Worried, the Dominion mobilized a patrol fleet. 6 ships, heavily armed and equipped with the best sensor arrays, jumped to the affected regions. What they found, or didn't find, sent quiet panic through the high command. Galactic Station was still there, intact, floating in silence. But every life form on board had vanished. Food sat uneaten. Lights were still on. Systems functioned. But there were no bodies, no signs of violence. As if the entire crew had been plucked from reality. The fleet commander, Captain Sorrell, ordered full lockdown and began uploading sensor data to headquarters. Halfway through the transmission, the fleet went dark. No explosion, no weapon trace. The fleet vanished as thoroughly as the stations before them. The Dominion had faced uprisings before. They had fought species with terrifying biological weapons, entire planets that could bend energy to their will. But this was different. This wasn't conquest or resistance. This was removal. Clean, silent, absolute. In the council chambers, debate turned to alarm. Theories surfaced. Rogue AI, hidden wormholes, maybe even ancient weapon systems reactivating in deep space. But no theory explained why only Dominion sites were being targeted, or why each disappearance followed a perfect arc across the stars. An arc that seemed to be curving inward, towards Sol-3. The once dismissed Earth now lay directly in the path of the spreading silence. Someone noticed the pattern too late, and a new scout ship was rushed into production. Faster, stealthier, armed with the latest tech. Its mission was simple: approach Earth, observe, and report back. Before it even reached the edge of the system, its final automated log was received. 4 words burned into its transmission buffer, repeating endlessly. "They see us now." That was the last anyone heard from the ship. The Council tried to remain calm, issuing orders, opening archives, reviewing data. But beneath the surface, fear had taken root. The Dominion had watched hundreds of stars rise and fall. But now, one planet they had ignored was moving in silence, erasing their presence step by step. And Earth wasn't speaking. It was hunting. The Dominion rarely salvaged its own ships. Their fleets were either victorious or lost entirely. But after the silence began creeping through outer sectors, the Council authorized emergency search operations. When a crippled vessel drifted into the orbit of a neutral system near the silent zone, Dominion recovery teams descended on it like vultures. The ship was the Vorstei, one of the last vessels sent to investigate the Gralith disappearance. Its hull was scorched, not from weapons fire, but from within, like something had ignited the systems internally. The crew was missing, all escape pods accounted for and sealed, yet not a single body was found. Inside, data cores were partially intact. The recovery team carefully extracted audio logs, internal surveillance, and maintenance records. They expected static or corrupted files. What they found were clear recordings, too clear. One log captured the final moments of the communications officer. "We didn't detect a vessel." "Not exactly. It's like it's behind the sensors, or inside them." Another officer, voice trembling, added, "They're rewriting our systems while we're still using them. I think they're watching us through our own eyes." Then silence. The most chilling part wasn't what they said, but what they saw. A fragment of corrupted video was recovered, played frame by frame in a secure Dominion archive. It showed a figure standing in the bridge's observation bay. Humanoid, unarmored, calm. It wore no breathing apparatus. It didn't match any known alien profile. Its features were unmistakably human. But it wasn't from the crew. None of the officers could have been in 2 places at once. The manifest had no unauthorized personnel. The figure stared directly into the bridge camera for 12 full seconds, and then the feed cut to black. Dominion analysts traced the figure's features. The face matched no known Terran profile from Earth's open data networks. Yet DNA residue found in the wreckage matched human biology almost perfectly, only altered. Faster regenerative properties, neural density far beyond average. Lab results concluded one disturbing possibility. This was an engineered human, not born, but built. Fragments of hardware recovered from the engine room further confirmed it. A device, disguised as Dominion tech, was Earth-made. It bore human language etched on its casing. 4 small words in ancient Earth script. "We are not asleep." The Council fell into chaos. Earth was supposed to be primitive, fragmented, distracted by its own internal squabbles. Yet somehow it had reached the stars, not with fleets or announcements, but with ghosts and shadows. The Council ordered a reclassification of Sol-3 from low threat to active anomaly. But the damage had already been done. The silence was spreading. The arc had become a curve. Dominion systems, once bustling with life, now sat lifeless and untouched. No battles, no wreckage, just the vanishing echo of an empire being unraveled one piece at a time. And all signs pointed back to the one world they thought would never matter. Earth. When a second salvaged vessel repeated the same patterns, vanished crew, hijacked systems, and Earth-based anomalies, the Dominion had no choice but to confront the unthinkable. Sol 3, long ignored, was now a central threat, but no one understood how or why. High Lord Teverin, master of Dominion archives, was given emergency access to the Black Codex, an ancient, forbidden database of records predating even the Dominion itself. These files were sealed beneath dozens of AI firewalls, guarded against corruption, and protected by ancestral law. Within them lay secrets left by the Corellian race, one of the first interstellar civilizations, long vanished under mysterious circumstances. For hours, Tyverin sifted through alien warnings, cryptic maps, and lost species profiles. Then he found it. A single file, buried under layers of old code, labeled only Sol 3. He decrypted it. Inside was a short, direct message. Engagement forbidden. Do not provoke. Do not approach. If they remain asleep, leave them. If they awaken, do not remain. Attached was a galactic map showing ancient trade routes, all curving deliberately around one sector, Earth's sector. A single red marker hovered over Sol 3 with an eerie silence. Tyverin summoned the council. This file is over 10,000 cycles old, he explained. Earth wasn't marked low threat because it was weak. It was marked that way to keep others from disturbing it. The label was a trap, camouflage for something the Corellians didn't want found. Council members whispered, shaken. One elder, Lord Varen, asked, "Why disguise it instead of warning everyone openly?" Tyverin answered without hesitation. Because some civilizations can't resist a challenge. If the warning said, "Do not engage," they'd engage out of pride. But if it says, "Low threat," most empires will ignore it completely. And that's exactly what the Dominion had done. Too late, the truth was sinking in. Earth had been protected by obscurity. It had watched the stars, learned in silence, grown in secret. Every Dominion probe, every lost ship, had triggered a measured response. Not war, not conquest, a message. Stay away. The Dominion, blinded by arrogance, had ignored it. In a last-ditch attempt to repair the situation, the Council tried opening formal contact. Peace offers were broadcast across Earth's known communication bands in dozens of galactic languages. They received no reply. Instead, Dominion satellites began malfunctioning. Defense codes stopped working. Civilian navigation systems flickered and shifted coordinates, sometimes rerouting entire transports to nowhere. One message slipped through the static, this time broadcast across every military frequency at once. A voice. Human. Calm. Deliberate. "We heard you the first time. You didn't listen. You were warned." After that, nothing more came from Earth. Only silence. But across the Dominion, that silence began to carry weight. Colonies no longer trusted their own systems. Commanders spoke in whispers. The entire empire had been built on order and dominance. Now it was learning what fear felt like. And the source of that fear was rising from a forgotten world they should never have touched. The first black ship appeared at the edge of the Varnex system, a border world still untouched by the silence. It came without warning, a pitch-dark vessel with no registration, no drive signature, no life signs. Dominion sensors couldn't lock onto it. Visual feeds blurred when focused. It didn't respond to hails or threats. It simply drifted, slowly, steadily, toward a military outpost. The outpost commander, High Captain Jurith, ordered defensive measures. Missiles launched. Lasers fired. Nothing hit. Every system malfunctioned, as if someone had overwritten the controls mid-command. In desperation, Jurith gave the order to retreat. That command never reached his crew. Within minutes, the outpost power failed. Emergency lights flickered, then died. The The last internal transmission captured Jurith standing at a viewport, staring into the void. "They're not just here," he whispered. "They never left." The black ship vanished moments later. The outpost was found 3 days later, fully intact, except for the crew, who were gone without a trace. After that, the ships came more often, not in fleets, always one or two. Always in complete silence. They never stayed long. Just enough to be seen, to be felt, to erase another piece of the Dominion's presence. Mining operations, listening posts, patrol stations, all dissolved like sand in water. And still, Earth said nothing. Dominion strategists tried to formulate a response, but their tactics failed against an enemy that didn't fight conventionally. These ships didn't conquer, they dismantled. They didn't invade, they erased. Wherever they appeared, local AI systems turned against their users. Automated defenses shut down. Weapons refused to fire. It was war without violence. The scariest part wasn't what Earth was doing. It was how long it had been preparing. Archive telemetry revealed old Dominion probes had been quietly intercepted near Sol 3 decades ago. Their signals were never jammed, just subtly altered enough to fool Central Records. Earth had been aware of the Dominion since the first encounter, and instead of panicking, it had waited. It had studied, and now it was responding with perfect precision. One recovered black ship finally provided a breakthrough. After its systems went dormant, Dominion engineers managed to extract fragments of code. What they found shocked even the AI lords. An adaptive intelligence unlike anything known in the galaxy. Not a standard machine mind, not purely synthetic. It was human. Neural pathways scanned into code. Emotions mapped to algorithms. Strategy born from instinct, but enhanced beyond biology. The ship didn't have a pilot. The ship was the pilot. A Dominion archivist whispered what others feared to say aloud. They've digitized themselves, not uploaded, evolved. The Council could no longer deny it. Earth hadn't just awakened. It had surpassed. It didn't need empires or alliances. It didn't need a seat at the galactic table. It had built something better, and it had sent that something out, not to conquer, but to remove anything that tried to cage it. And now, those sleepers had returned. Not to speak, not to threaten, but to finish what they had already started. By the time the third core world went dark, the whispers had begun to spread, not through official channels, but in quiet corners of Dominion space. Among the engineers, the smugglers, the old navigators who trusted instincts over instruments, a single question echoed louder each day. What did the humans become? No one had answers, only stories. A freighter captain claimed he saw a black ship pass through a star without burning. A communications officer whispered that her station's AI had started speaking in Earth languages it was never programmed to know. On Virex 12, a child drew a symbol no one recognized until an old archivist found it deep in forbidden files, once used by an extinct race to mark worlds not to be disturbed. The Dominion had once considered itself a civilization beyond fear. Logic, structure, and control were its foundations, but now those very foundations were cracking. Military fleets refused deployment orders. Colony governors stopped answering transmissions. I-Corps began isolating themselves, as if hiding from something greater. In the midst of this, a strange signal began broadcasting across low-band emergency frequencies. It wasn't a distress call. It was music. Old Earth music. Some recognized it. A melody from centuries ago, something called a piano. No encryption, no message. Just the sound of human hands playing across ivory keys, soft, slow, and deliberate. The Dominion tried to block it, but every time it was suppressed, it reappeared elsewhere, stronger, clearer. Even the machines listened. High Lord Tyveran sat alone in the central citadel of the Dominion, listening to the haunting melody echo through the grand hall. The same hall that once echoed with commands now sat in still silence, save for that strange, beautiful tune. It wasn't a declaration. It wasn't a threat. It was a reminder. a reminder that something once fragile and divided had become something vast and unknowable. The humans hadn't just caught up, they'd passed by and left something behind to watch over the stars. Tyvern finally spoke into the hall's transmitter, opening a channel to Sol 3. "This is the Dominion. We acknowledge your ascendancy. We request dialogue." The music continued. A long pause followed. Then, at last, a reply. Not a voice. A single phrase, written in Terran English, etched itself into every Dominion screen, every data core, every mind-linked interface. Dialogue was offered. You laughed. Now we play alone. Then the message vanished, as did half of Dominion's remaining communication grid. No warships had arrived. No superweapons had fired. But system by system, the Dominion was folding inward, its command unraveling under invisible fingers. The whispers grew louder. Some began to call Earth by a new name, the Silent Core. And in the silence, one truth became undeniable. Humanity hadn't been underestimated. It had been misjudged. And now it was no longer rising. It was watching. Long before the Dominion ruled the stars, long before their first hyperdrive engine roared into the void, Earth had already begun preparing. Not with colonies or fleets, but with information. Humanity had learned early that the galaxy was not empty. Strange signals, faint patterns in the cosmic background, errant whispers between the stars, none of it was truly random. Their scientists had argued, governments denied, but somewhere beneath the public noise, a quiet global consensus had formed. They are watching us. And one day it will come. So Earth responded not with fear, but with patience. As the centuries passed, it poured its brilliance into stealth satellites, cloaked listening arrays, and quantum-disguised probes. It built not to serve, but to observe. Systems buried deep beneath oceans, ice caps, and even lunar rock. And when the first Dominion probe entered the Sol system, Earth didn't react. It recorded. It adapted. And most importantly, it remembered. Now, as the Dominion began crumbling under invisible hands, one of its youngest scholars, Archivist Lyran, stumbled upon an old Terran transmission hidden in a recovered beacon. It was dated centuries before the silence began. Not encoded, not secret, simply overlooked. The file opened with an image of Earth, seen from orbit. Blue, vibrant, alive. Then a voice, calm and human. To those who find this, we are not unaware. We see the watchers. We know the patterns. We understand that one day you may come to test our resolve. But understand this. Humanity is not made of cities or weapons or ships. A pause. Humanity is made of memory, and we do not forget. The voice faded. The screen turned black. Then a final phrase appeared, written in dozens of galactic languages. You are not the first to come, and you will not be the first to fall. Lyran shivered as the message ended. It wasn't rage. It wasn't revenge. It was a quiet truth. One that explained everything the Dominion had failed to understand. Earth had survived its own destruction more than once. Wars, extinction threats, planetary collapse. But each time, it rose stronger, stranger, more cunning. It learned from every wound, grew from every scar. And when it saw the stars, it didn't rush toward them. It waited. Now the watchers had become the watched. The mighty had become the missing. And the children of Earth, those who had digitized their minds, merged with code, and turned silence into strength, were returning. Not as conquerors, as a warning. More black ships appeared, not in formation, but in rhythm. They moved like thoughts, appearing where Dominion logic broke down, erasing outposts before alarm systems even noticed. Entire planets surrendered to the silence, begging for mercy from a force that made no demands. Because Earth had already spoken long ago. And now it simply remembered who had listened, and who hadn't. In the end, there was no grand battle, no clash of titans, no desperate final stand. The Dominion, once the most feared empire in the stars, simply unraveled. System by system, its command chains collapsed under their own weight. Cores went dark, slipping into silent loops. Whole fleets vanished from tracking arrays, their last recorded positions eerily close to Earth's ancient trade shadows. Every attempt to rally or regroup met the same fate: confusion, silence, and sudden disconnection. The council chambers, once filled with booming voices and layered strategy, now stood hollow. A few remaining officials argued endlessly over what could be salvaged, but no answer came. Only the occasional flicker of strange data in their systems: names, symbols, fragments of old Earth languages slipping through firewalls like whispers through cracks. It wasn't just defeat, it was erasure. A quiet, calculated unmaking of an empire that had grown too proud to look down. They had cataloged Earth as irrelevant, laughed at its slow development, labeled it low threat. They never asked how it had survived so long, unnoticed and untouched. But Earth had never needed permission to evolve, and now it had outgrown the galaxy. Somewhere in the void, beyond the last Dominion stronghold, a final transmission was picked up by scavenger ships. It was short, unencrypted, and carried on a dozen obsolete frequencies. The voice was unmistakably human. Civilization is not measured by what it conquers, but by what it chooses to become. We chose silence. You chose noise. We listened. You laughed. And now, a long pause followed. Now you understand. The scavengers never found the source. Back on Earth, the skies remained unchanged. No parades, no broadcasts. Cities moved quietly. Life continued. There were no celebrations because there had been no war, only a correction. Humanity had watched the stars long enough to know how empires rise and fall. They had chosen a different path. Among the stars, the black ships continued to drift, not hunting, not destroying, simply watching. Guardians of silence, carriers of memory. In time, new species would rise, curious, ambitious, and brave. Some would come searching for the ruins of the Dominion. Others would stumble into the silent zones, where machines no longer obeyed and signals vanished into nothing. And eventually, they would find the same phrase etched into forgotten satellites, floating near the edge of Sol 3. Do not disturb the sleepers. But some would ignore it. And so the cycle would begin again. Because the galaxy always forgets, but Earth never does.